Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Iredell-Statesville Schools EDtalks. Our guest today is County Commissioner Gene Houpe. Mr. Houpe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't miss it.
And congratulations on your recent election to the board. And I understand now that you're co-chairing two committees for the county commissioners: general government and education.
Yes, sir.
What's the role of those two committees?
The Education Committee, Commissioner Norman and I are going to co-chair that committee. What we're looking to do is hit the ground running, and we're going to ask all the boards of education and work with you guys as staff and ask for 2 to 3 of the board members from each of your boards, as long as we don't have a quorum, to give us an opportunity to build a better working relationship, to have work sessions and collaborate together to accomplish more understanding of what each of us need, why we need it, how we pay for it. And I think that benefits the taxpayers of Iredell County better, is having a more active group and a more active committee. The General Government Committee is just what it says. It's working with all the government boards, all the other boards and town councils in the county. Commissioner McNeely and myself are going to co-chair that. And our goals are not clear yet. We're going to meet on the 16th and discuss our various goals as a board and a body. But we're really excited, and the stakeholders like you guys in the community will have the opportunity to work closely with us one-on-one, and we can get more in-depth, like your meeting yesterday was wonderful.
Right. Well, I tell you, as a lifelong resident of Iredell County, I am very pleased to see that my government is now trying to pull together all of the different agencies and work collaboratively together rather than working in silos.
Right.
I think that's going to be a much more effective government, and it will have a greater impact on the services that are provided to the taxpayers and citizens of the county.
Well, our goal in general government and on the Education Committee is to on behalf of the citizens that elect us, is not to just get the title, but to get out and do the job, which requires a lot of time, energy, time away from home. But to do that, you've got to get in. You and I have had several meetings to get in and understand the dynamics and the challenges that you guys face, your board faces, you face with revenue shortfalls, unfunded mandates, policy changes, and the impacts of your people in the trenches. And then take that back to the complete board and the county staff to where we understand when you guys come to us and you say you need something, we understand you need it, why you need it, and that way we can better relay that to the taxpayers of Iredell County. I think once the taxpayers understand that they are getting a great return on the investment of public education, because we'll talk later, I think, how public education is a big key player in our economic growth in our county.
All right, well, let's get into that subject next. I've heard you say that many times, that there is a direct correlation between employment, economic development, quality of life for the community, and the success of its public schools.
Well, in our economic, just for instance, our economic development, the economic development, one of our biggest assets is the success and choice of schools for our parents and businesses and industries coming to Iredell County. When they start looking at Iredell County, and even before looking at our low tax rate, which is the lowest of any county touching us around this region, with the funding that we're giving you guys, based on the levels of funding that you're getting from the county, state, and local, the John Locke Foundation says you guys are giving us a bang for our buck, the taxpayers of Iredell County. What we've got to do a better job of, in my opinion, is letting the taxpayers know that investing in education is an investment. They are getting a return, even if they don't have school-age children in school or grandchildren in school. And the way that does is because if it helps us drive economic growth, attract businesses here, they create better paying jobs. Families have disposable income. They can go out in our communities and buy things. Sales tax revenues, if they're up, they prevent us from having to raise property taxes. So all of those things are intertwined. Business and economic growth are tied to education, and education is tied to the other also. People in the past have not done a great job connecting the two and working with our business partners, our chambers, our regional development people, because you guys are a big factor in the successes of our economic growth, and they are a big factor in your successes. You know, working on the general government in the future, we're going to work more closely with all of our board councils and our town commissioners in Mooresville. When they make a decision on, say, a property rezoning and a development coming, that has an impact potentially on you guys as a school system and us as county commissioners, because we provide funding for you guys for capital needs and bricks and mortar, as we call it. But so if we work more closely together and we meet, we can understand up front, early in the process, the potential impacts to each of us, and working together as a county, as a region, I believe makes us all stronger, and we're able to produce a better product, because the workforce that's coming out of your schools, out of this building here, it is training the workforce for these businesses that are wanting to come to Iredell County. Right. And you having the flexibility and having training, working collaboratively with Mitchell College, that has been wonderful. And that is, you know, out in the community as an elected official and as a business owner myself, business leaders and businesses looking at Iredell County know that we have a strong workforce where we are willing to listen to them and work. You guys are working with Dr. Brewer, Mooresville Graded, and you guys are producing a trained workforce for the businesses wanting to come to Iredell County.
Right. I've heard you mention many times that folks from around the community need to come to the table and meet more often and talk more openly about the challenges and issues of the community. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, like, you know, your legislative breakfast yesterday, we were able to bring in the elected officials. We had two representatives from the state here, the county commissioners, and your school board was there. We were able to hear, when you brought in your people that's in the trenches, for instance, and talking about the important topics that you can touch on later, we can, but the feedback from our legislators yesterday and our other elected bodies, hearing firsthand from the people in the trenches and how the policies and legislation, whether intentional or not, impacts them in their job in the field, because they're there on behalf of the children in their schools, they're there on behalf of the parents in their communities, they're the CEOs of your buildings. And so it's important that we hear from them. It's important that we get feedback from these guys. And part of the education committee is to bring in stakeholders from the community, members of the community that doesn't work for you, they don't work for the county. These people have a stake in the success of your system, Mooresville, Mitchell, and the policies and procedures and the services we provide. So I think more open collaboration, communication. The public just wants to know, you know, how we're investing their money, why do we think it's necessary, and to give them a feedback on it, or a regular update on it, because typically they don't know. And I think we have to do a better job getting press releases to the media on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and have open meetings in the public, like yesterday, where the public's invited to come and listen to the back and forth interchanges with us and our legislators. And I'm excited because our legislators are going to go back to Raleigh. They're going to communicate with our other elected officials throughout the state and talk about the important issues, the good and bad impacts of their policies. And I really believe they're going to try to correct some of those things.
Right. Well, let's talk about that legislative breakfast yesterday just a little bit. What were some of your takeaways? We presented 5 topics yesterday. Did it help you inquire new knowledge and help you hear from our principals and our teachers, a teacher assistant, counselors? Tell us a little bit of your
It was
takeaway.
very powerful, and that was part of what I was saying, talking to the legislators before and after and the elected officials. Hearing from the people in the trenches, hearing from your people in the schools, I mean, very powerful, you know, with the topics of calendar flexibility, the A through F report card, the complexities and challenges your principals are having in recruiting staff, whether that be teachers or administrators, to fill key positions in their schools. The pool of employees is drying up in the nation because of the lack of pay. People can get better pay in the private sector. So we collaboratively, as elected officials, where possible, where funding's available, have to help you guys get salaries and things to a more competitive level, try to get things back to levels of earlier economic successes. So what we've got to do as stakeholders is help you. Hearing some of the general public, I don't believe, has a true understanding of the 24/7 on-call time frame your staff put in, the principals being on call 24/7. Hearing it was very powerful, talking about, the time they're away from their homes and time away from their children. And they do it because they're dedicated. Right. I've been in law enforcement 29 years and a small business owner almost 25. And you typically don't do these professions for the pay. You do it because you have a passion for it. You could see and hear in the voices in their faces yesterday, some of the people choked up in their conversations, and they're very passionate because a lot of people in the private sector would not put in the time and effort and extra time and effort doing things that they don't have to do to draw that paycheck. Yeah. And the general public, that's why I want to help as an elected official get the message to the taxpayers that you are getting a great return on your investment. And the people that are out there, naturally, in an organization as large as yours, there's always going to be mistakes made. We have it in the county. But I think you deal with it and move on like any business. Right. But you are a CEO of this organization. The title's the superintendent. And if people understand the dynamics of how all this works, you have a board of directors as your school board. They're elected to hold you guys accountable, set policy for how you function. But in the future, as part of the education committee, I would love to ask you and the board to continue having these type of meetings because they were so informative. And everybody that left that meeting yesterday on the 5 topics you touched on in that limited time they were changed in their opinions before they went in. And because these topics are very important, most of which some of the changes that could be made to make the jobs easier and better do not cost the taxpayers in North Carolina anything. Right. Some of which are mostly unintended consequences of policies or mandates. Right. And so I really think our legislators are going to take a hard look at that.
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of those. One of them is calendar flexibility. Right. Currently in North Carolina, school systems are required by law to start school after August the 25th. Right. That's mandated by the law. The Board of Education has no control over that. Right. But what happens is that by starting school that late, our kids are not on the same calendar as the community colleges and the universities. Right. So it's a handicap to our kids, particularly those that want to take college courses and those that want to graduate early and start their college career in January. We also run into issues with having to give those exams for our children in January as opposed to December like we used to do. It would not cost the General Assembly one dime to return calendar flexibility to the local Board of Education. Right. So that's an example of what you were talking about there. It's just a regulation, unintended consequences, easy to fix. You think our General Assembly members heard that message?
I think they did. I talked to both of them yesterday, and Terry did a great job. Ms. Hutchins did a great job on presenting the challenges. Sometimes you don't think about when the early college starts 3 weeks. I'm assuming 3 to 4 weeks, whatever it is, before your traditional public schools. You're having to provide transportation. You're having to do things that's not typically up and rolling. Holidays, parents may have children in early college and traditional public school. The schedules are different. Yep. It causes unintended consequences, I believe, and hardships on families. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe it would cause a hardship on businesses or any other entity to coordinate those schedules or turn the flexibility back to your local boards. Because you know better how to coordinate and set your schedule locally. As long as you get the mandated time in your schedule of the children going to school, and I think the local flexibility helps in a lot of ways if we can get that done.
Yep. Another topic we discussed yesterday was the A through F report card. Right. And that was put in place by the General Assembly several years ago. You heard one of our teachers talk about that yesterday, and she says, I welcome accountability. I want accountability, but I want it fair. Right. And the issue that we have with the A through F report card is that the A through F report card unfavorably reflects heavily on children of poverty,
Right.
and it puts those schools that have high concentrations of children on free and reduced lunch in a negative light.
Right.
Currently, the formula is based on the end of grade test, counting 80% pure performance and
Right.
20% growth.
Right.
What we're proposing is that should be at least a 50-50 model. Did that message get out yesterday?
I think so. I think they're willing to look at that. I think listening to Ms. Dearman talk about it and looking at the charts you guys provided, you know, the schools that are in those type things, I think she mentioned as an example her school, if the grading scale was returned, they would be a B school.
Right.
And the challenges you face is the children may have wonderful growth, but in your chart and diagrams you showed us that the schools in your district, all of which I believe had either mid to upper to 90% in some cases poverty levels, free and reduced lunches and things like that. So a lot of broken homes, you have a lot of children that are homeless, living in cars. There's a lot of things people don't understand. The challenges, there's not two-parent homes, there's not people at home to provide food sometimes, there's not people at home to help with homework. But the 50-50 would, in my opinion, be a fair way to look at it for a while, because it gives you equal growth to the end of grade testing. And it also helps you address the situation because you've got some teachers that are very dedicated, very hardworking. You need your rock star teachers coming to those schools to help. But if the schools are getting labeled or they're getting labeled as failing schools, you've got teachers, and you can't blame staff that don't want to be labeled and that get frustrated in a situation like that to where they're really working hard with these children. And some of these children's growth is phenomenal. And what impressed me the most out of your chart and the other legislators and elected people there that I spoke with was in every one of those cases, your, what do you call where they give the schools climate survey. Your climate surveys in every one of those schools that have the grading scale in that report card, every one of them had very high climate survey from parents that they would recommend those schools and those teachers to any of their friends and family. So that sends a message back to the community, and they need to understand that the school system is doing the best they can with the resources they have, and the children are showing growth. And so I think the legislators heard that. I think they're going to make a change, I hope.
Yep.
And I think that's the fair thing to do.
Another topic yesterday was the dual system that North Carolina is using now with traditional public schools versus the charter schools. And there are two sets of rules that you play by. A lot of folks in the community don't realize this, but a charter school is exempt from all laws that apply to the traditional public schools. What they put in their charter is the rules that they get to play by. And so we tried to make the point yesterday, if we're going to deregulate one set of schools, let's deregulate all the schools and let them play by the same rules. Did we do a good job of conveying that?
I think you did. I think the general public doesn't understand, and sometimes people take it the wrong way when they hear us say that we need a level playing field. They think we're anti-charters, and we're not. Parents should have a choice, and we support the parent choice. But the way I explain it to people is, you know, in the charter system, it's like you and I playing a basketball game and I tie one of my arms behind my back. That makes it unfair to me, to you. We're not playing by the same fair rules. What I mean by that is a lot of your regulations that you function under, you can't turn a child down. They can. All of your certified staff have to be 100% certified. I believe theirs is 50-50, their certified staff. So there's a lot of charter-like flexibility that I believe can help you compete more with charters and allow parents to be able to have choice in curriculum. And I think there's a lot of things you can elaborate on that more than I can, but just what I'm hearing from legislators and from the general public, the playing field does need to be leveled. There does need to be, I, as an elected official, would love to see some accountability back to the Board of Commissioners. You guys, along with Mitchell and Mooresville, the systems, You guys have to present a budget to us. We're the checks and balances for the taxpayers in Iredell County. So I don't believe that accountability back to the commissioners would hinder the charters from being successful and functioning and having rules that they go by similar or the same as you. I think that's fair. And I think what that does is just like in the business industry. What if we had EPA regulations or any other laws that were only applied to one business over another? That's just not fair and that's not right. So I think the public, if the facts were known, it does not adversely affect the charters, in my opinion. If they're going to run their systems and spend taxpayer dollars, they need to be accountable to us the same as you are and follow the same set of rules that you guys do. I think anybody I've talked to said that's fair.
Yep. Well, I tell you, it's very enlightening to have a commissioner that is as well versed on educational issues as you are. We do look forward to our board selecting their members that will be serving on your education committee.
Right.
And we look forward to working very closely with you and the other county commissioners to provide the best possible education that we can for the kids in our community. Sure. So thank you for your service. Thank you for being here today, and we look forward to working with you.
Commissioner Norman and all of our commissioners, Chairman Mallory, all of those guys are committed to do the best we can. We understand education is a key factor for our economic success in Iredell County, and I look forward to working closely with you along with all of us.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. We hope that you're finding these segments educational and providing you with information about your public school system. Again, we thank you for your time and thanks for tuning in.